"I saw the child upstairs," my cleaner said. "I don't have a child." She didn't smile. She didn't hesitate. She looked directly at me, serious, almost tense, like she expected me to understand something I didn't. "Not just a child," she said. "He was sitting on the floor. Playing. Like he lives here. In the locked room. No one goes into that room. No one." I told her she must be mistaken. "There is no child in this house. There never has been." She shook her head. I heard him move. That was enough. I went upstairs. Slowly, without rushing, without making noise. The house was silent, exactly like it always is. No steps. No voices. No movement. The door was still locked. Exactly how I left it. I opened it. There was a toy on the floor. New. Clean. Not something forgotten or left behind. Placed. Right in the center of the room, where it could not be missed. I didn't touch it. I didn't step inside. I just stood there and looked at it. Because only one person had access to this house. And a week earlier, he asked me a strange question. What medication I take. When I take it. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. Now I did. My name is Richard Cole. And in that moment, I understood something was very wrong. Because no one was supposed to be inside my house. And yet someone had been there. I didn't touch the toy. I left it exactly where it was and locked the door again the same way I always do. Downstairs, I asked my cleaner to describe what she saw in more detail. She said the child was small, maybe 5 or 6, quiet, focused on what he was doing. He didn't look at her, didn't react, just kept playing like nothing was wrong. I asked her what time it happened. That was the problem. Because at that exact time, I was in the house. In my office. Working. I remember the moment clearly. I remember the silence. I remember not hearing anything. No footsteps. No doors. No voices. Nothing. That evening, I checked the entire house. Every room, every window, every lock. Everything was secure. No signs of forced entry. No signs of someone living there. Except for that toy. I went back upstairs and opened the door again. The toy was still there. But it wasn't where I had left it. It was closer to the wall. Not in the center anymore. A small change, but I knew exactly where it had been. I hadn't touched it. No one should have. That's when I noticed something else. A faint smell. Sweet. Chemical. Out of place. It didn't belong to that room. It didn't belong to anything I own. I stepped back and closed the door. Then I went to my office and opened my laptop. Every system in my house is monitored. Doors, locks, motion sensors. Everything is tracked. There were no alerts. No activity. No recorded movement. Which meant one thing. Whoever was inside my house wasn't triggering anything. That shouldn't be possible. I sat there and went over everything again. The cleaner's words. The time. The toy. The smell. The silence. Then I remembered something small. The day before, my medication bottle wasn't where I left it. I thought I misplaced it. I don't misplace things. And that was the moment the situation changed. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't coincidence. Someone was inside my house. And they were careful. Careful enough to stay invisible. Careful enough to move things without being seen. Careful enough to make me question my own memory. The next morning, I changed nothing. I left the house exactly as it was. The toy stayed in that room. The door stayed locked. I wanted to see what would happen next. Before leaving, I checked my medication again. The bottle was on the shelf where it should be, but something felt wrong. I opened it and counted. 2 pills were missing. I don't forget doses. I don't take extra. I know exactly what I take and when I take it. I closed the bottle and put it back. Now I was certain. Someone wasn't just inside my house. They were interfering with things that mattered. That afternoon, I came home earlier than usual. No warning. No routine. I wanted to catch something out of place. The house was silent. Too silent. I went upstairs and opened the door. The first toy was gone. For a moment, I thought I imagined everything. Then I saw it. A different toy. Not the same one. Placed near the corner. Not random. Not forgotten. Placed. Someone had been there again. I stepped into the room for the first time. I never do that. I keep that door closed for a reason, but now it didn't matter. I checked the window. Still locked. No damage. No marks. No sign that anyone entered or left. Nothing. Except what they wanted me to see. The smell was stronger now. Sweet. Chemical. Familiar in a way I couldn't fully explain. I left the room and locked it again. Then I went straight to my office and opened my laptop. This time, I didn't check the house system. I checked my personal access logs. Everything looked normal. Until I saw one entry. Late at night. A login from inside the house. While I was asleep. I stared at the screen. The system recognized the device. My device. But I didn't log in. I don't forget actions like that. I checked the camera logs. Nothing. No movement. No footage. No errors. Just empty records. Clean. Too clean. That's when the pattern started to form. Someone was entering the house without triggering anything. Moving objects. Taking medication. Accessing my system. Leaving no trace. Except the ones they wanted me to notice. The toy. The missing pills. The smell. The login. Not random. Not accidental. Deliberate. Controlled. Planned. And there was only one person who knew enough about my life to do it this precisely. My nephew. A week ago, he asked about my medication. Now pills were missing. That wasn't coincidence. I closed the laptop and sat still for a moment. For the first time, I stopped asking what was happening. And started asking why. Because this wasn't about stealing. This wasn't about hiding. This was about control. And someone was testing how far they could go before I noticed. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I needed confirmation, not suspicion. That night, I made changes. I replaced my medication. Same bottle. Different pills. Harmless, but noticeable. If someone touched them again, I would know. I also added something else. A secondary recording system. Not connected to anything in the house. Not visible in any logs. Old hardware. Offline. I placed it where no one would think to look. The next morning, everything looked normal. The house was quiet. Nothing out of place. Until I checked the bottle. One pill was missing. Again. I didn't react. I didn't touch anything. I went to my office, closed the door, and opened the recording. At first, nothing. Then movement. Late at night. A figure entering the room. Calm. Precise. No hesitation. He walked straight to the shelf. He knew exactly where everything was. He picked up the bottle. Opened it. Paused for a second. Then replaced one pill and took another. I leaned closer. He turned slightly. That was enough. My nephew. No doubt. No confusion. I kept watching. He didn't rush. He moved through the room like it belonged to him. Then he stopped and looked around. And smiled. Not relief. Not fear. Control. Before leaving, he adjusted something on the shelf. I zoomed in. A toy. He wasn't hiding anything. He was placing them. Deliberately. That's when everything became clear. This wasn't intrusion. This was a setup. The missing pills. The toys. The movements. The silence. The logs. All of it connected. He wasn't just entering my house. He was building a version of reality. One where I forget things. One where objects move. One where my memory becomes unreliable. I leaned back and thought. A week ago, he asked about my medication. Now he was controlling it. That wasn't curiosity. That was preparation. Because if someone can prove you forget, if they can show confusion, if they can demonstrate instability, they don't need to remove you. You remove yourself. I closed the recording. Now I understood. He wasn't hiding from me. He was preparing to replace me. Legally. Quietly. And now I had proof. But proof alone wasn't enough. If I acted too early, he would stop. Disappear. And I would lose everything. So I did nothing. Because now I wasn't reacting. I was watching. I watched the recording again, this time slowly, paying attention to every detail. He wasn't just confident. He was calm, controlled, almost comfortable. Like this wasn't his first time. I went back through previous nights. He had been there more than once. Always late. Always precise. He followed the same path. My path. He didn't search. He didn't hesitate. He moved like he belonged there. That was the first real damage. He wasn't acting like a thief. He was acting like me. I kept reviewing the files until I noticed something else. A second file. Hidden. Not part of my system. Recorded from inside my own laptop. I opened it. Audio. His voice. And another one. A woman. Calm. Professional. I recognized her. A legal consultant. He introduced us once. Now I understood why. His memory is declining, my nephew said. No hesitation. No emotion. He forgets things. Misplaces objects. The woman asked for evidence. He laughed. I'm creating it. I didn't move. I kept listening. The medication helps, he continued. Small changes. Enough to confuse him. And his behavior, she asked. I record everything, he said. Every hesitation. Every mistake. My hand tightened. We'll need a pattern, she said. You'll have it, he answered. And the house? I already have access. No doubt. No guilt. Just certainty. I stopped the recording. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This wasn't doubt. He wasn't testing me. He wasn't stealing. He was building a case against me. Carefully. Legally. Step by step. Every missing pill. Every moved object. Every recorded moment. All of it designed to prove one thing. That I was no longer capable. I sat there for a long time, thinking clearly. I remembered the day he came into my house. Young. Quiet. Grateful. I gave him everything. A place to live. Access. Trust. He learned everything. How I think. How I move. How I live. And now he was using it. Against me. Not in anger. Not in desperation. With patience. With planning. That was the real betrayal. Not what he did. How long he prepared to do it. There was no going back. And for the first time, I stopped thinking about him. And started thinking about what I would do next. Because now I understood something he didn't. He thought he was in control. But he had already made one mistake. He let me see everything. I didn't confront him. That would have been a mistake. Instead, I did what he expected me to do. Nothing. I kept my routine exactly the same. Same schedule. Same habits. Same conversations. I took my medication in front of him once, just as he had seen me do before. I let him believe everything was working. That was the first step. If he thought I was slipping, he would continue. If he felt safe, he would go further. I needed that. I also stopped using the main system in the house. Everything he could access, I considered compromised. Every log, every device, every record. If he could get into my laptop, he could get into anything connected to it. So I separated everything. New records. Offline. New notes. Written by hand. New timeline. Stored where no one could find it. I began documenting everything. Dates. Times. Changes. Every missing pill. Every object moved. Every entry in the system that didn't belong to me. I didn't rush. I didn't react. I built it slowly. Carefully. The way he was building his case against me. Except mine was real. A few days later, he came to visit again. Same attitude. Calm. Polite. Controlled. He asked the same questions. How are you feeling? Did you sleep well? Are you taking your medication? I answered exactly how he expected. Short. Neutral. Slightly uncertain. Enough to confirm his version of me. He watched closely. Measuring. Recording. I let him. At one point, I paused before answering a simple question. Just long enough. I saw it in his expression. Satisfaction. That told me everything I needed. He believed it. He believed I was already losing control. That was his weakness. Confidence. I gave him more. Over the next few days, I made small mistakes on purpose. Misplaced a file. Forgot a name. Repeated a question. Nothing obvious. Just enough. He noticed every one of them. I could see it. He was building his pattern. And I was letting him. At the same time, I extended my own system. The recorder stayed active. Additional devices. Hidden. Independent. I covered areas he thought were safe. The hallway. The office. The entrance. Places he would never expect. Because he thought he understood the house. He thought he understood me. He didn't. I also made one more change. Subtle. I adjusted the medication schedule. Not what I took. What he expected me to take. So if he interfered again, the difference would be clear. Measured. Documented. Useful. Everything had a purpose now. Every action. Every silence. Every reaction. Or lack of it. From the outside, nothing changed. The house was the same. The routine was the same. I was the same. That's what he saw. That's what everyone saw. But underneath it, everything was different. Because now, I wasn't reacting to him. I was building something of my own. Quietly. Carefully. Completely out of his view. And the more confident he became, the easier it was to let him continue. Because every step he took was another piece of evidence. For me. I didn't wait for a perfect moment. I created one. It started with a report. Quiet. Formal. Precise. I submitted a request for an independent medical review. Not emotional. Not defensive. Clinical. Attached to it were my records. Not all of them. Just enough. Dates that didn't match. Dosages that had been altered. Notes I never wrote. It didn't accuse him. It didn't need to. It asked a simple question. Why? That was the first move. The second came the same day. I requested a system audit. Full access logs. External review. No warning. No announcement. By the time he realized what was happening, it was already in motion. He came the next morning. Earlier than usual. That alone told me everything. He didn't sit down. Didn't smile. Why did you request an audit? Straight to it. No patience. No control. I looked at him. Calm. Because I want clarity. He froze for a second. Not long. But long enough. You should have spoken to me first, he said. There it was. Not concern. Control. I nodded slowly. I am speaking to you now. His jaw tightened. He wasn't used to resistance. Not from me. He changed tactics. Soft voice. Measured tone. You're making this more complicated than it needs to be. That was almost impressive. Almost. I leaned back slightly. Good. That's when it shifted. His eyes moved. Quickly. To the hallway. Then back to me. Calculating. Searching. For the first time. He wasn't sure. That was all I needed. The pressure had started. Over the next 48 hours, things escalated. The audit team contacted him directly. Questions. Requests. Clarifications. They wanted explanations for changes in my records. For inconsistencies. For missing data. He didn't have clean answers. Because there weren't any. He tried to regain control. Came back again. This time calmer. Too calm. I think you're confused, he said. These systems can be misleading. I let him speak. Every word. Every explanation. Every attempt to redirect. The recorder captured everything. He didn't know that. Not this time. Not these devices. When he finished, I asked one question. Then why was my medication changed? Silence. A fraction of a second. Then. It wasn't. Too fast. Too certain. Wrong answer. I nodded. Like I accepted it. Like I believed him. He relaxed. Slightly. That was his mistake. Because at that moment, I already had the comparison. The original prescription. The altered log. The missing pills. And now. His denial. Recorded. Filed. Time-stamped. He started to talk more. Explaining things I hadn't asked. Overcorrecting. Trying to fill the silence. That's when people make errors. And he did. Small ones. Contradictions. Timelines that didn't align. Details that shifted. Each one subtle. But together, they formed something else. A pattern. His pattern. By the third day, he wasn't coming as often. Not because he didn't want to. Because he couldn't control the situation anymore. Too many eyes. Too many questions. Too much risk. But the damage was already done. He tried one last move. A call. Late. Unexpected. You need to stop this, he said. Not a request. Not advice. A warning. I listened. Calm. Silent. Then I said one thing. It's already stopped. He didn't understand. Not yet. But he would. Because by that point, the system wasn't just questioning him. It was building a case. And every step he took to fix it only made it worse. For him. For the first time. He wasn't in control of the narrative. He was inside it. They didn't arrest him in my house. They did it at his office. Quietly. No scene. No warning. Just two people walking in, and one walking out with them. By then, everything was already documented. The audit was complete. The logs matched. The prescriptions didn't. And his voice sealed it. He denied everything. At first. Then adjusted his story. Then contradicted himself. Each version worse than the last. I didn't need to be there. I had already done my part. The system handled the rest. A week later, I was discharged. Cleared. Stable. Misunderstanding, they called it. I didn't correct them. I didn't need to. Some truths work better when left intact, and recorded. The house felt different when I returned. Quieter. Cleaner. No hidden movements. No quiet footsteps in rooms that should stay empty. The toys were gone. Every trace removed. Like none of it had ever happened. But I knew better. Because I still had the files. The recordings. The backups. Not for revenge. For certainty. Control. People think justice is loud. That it needs confrontation. Exposure. Closure. They're wrong. The most effective justice is the one that doesn't ask for attention. It just removes the threat. And moves on. My name is Richard Cole. And I don't raise my voice. I keep records. Thank you for listening. Calm justice doesn't shout. It keeps records.